Hello, welcome to this webinar today with Ashley Letter from the UK, from beautiful Manchester. Hi, Ashley.
Hello, Olga.
My name is Holger Kast. I'm leading through this webinar. I moderate this webinar for you, and I would like to give you some rules for this webinar today. We would like you to ask your questions in the right side in the toolbar in the question mark fields, and you can write your questions. And at the end of Ashley's presentation, we have time to do a question and answer session. So I will moderate your questions to Ashley. So today, our topic: how to win back all your patients after the lockdown, after the situation we are in. It's a big topic. I think from TRI we can see, and we know that in different countries all around the world there's different situations in this moment, but we can see very positively in countries like, for example, in Germany or in some countries they already reopened their businesses, their hospitals, and we can see very positively a very big increasing of implant treatments, because if we see the situation positively, we can say people have more time. People can think about doing an implant treatment, for example, and we can see that it's just a question: how can you get your patients back on the chair? How can you win them back? And therefore, we invited Ashley Letter, who gives us in the next about an hour, in the next hour, a lot of tips and tricks how we can win and be successful getting back our patients and do a lot of implant treatments. So Ashley, I would like to pass the rights for your monitor to you, and please go ahead, introduce yourself, Ashley, and enjoy this webinar together. 1 second. So let's change to your presentation in this moment, Ashley. Okay.
Okay, thanks very much, Holger. Can you all hear me okay and see me and look at my slides?
We can see you. It's everything perfect. I think you can go ahead with the presentation. We're looking
Fantastic.
forward.
Can I just say, Holger, of all the companies I've worked with in the last few weeks, you are the most efficient. We have got German efficiency here today with a UK speaker. So can I personally thank you all, wherever you are living at the moment. I know we've got people from all over the world watching this presentation today, so I am honored, and I'd like to thank you for attending this webinar today. And I've got lots of tips and lots of strategies and lots of ideas to share with you. So hopefully you'll have a big pad or paper with a pen on. If you haven't, might be a good idea to get one. But if you miss anything, at the very end, I'll give you my email address, and then you can send me an email. I'll make sure I get these slides and other resources from my presentation today. So you'll get those, and I'll give you that details at the end of my presentation today. And Holger's right. From the beautiful part of Manchester, I'm in Manchester, north of England, and normally is a wet and grey place to live. But today there's not a cloud in the sky. It's glorious sunshine, and I think we have temperatures in the mid-20s. It's the hottest day of the year today. So, but I'm honoured to be here. So here's what we're going to cover today for you. I'm going to be looking at something called winners and losers, and in most challenging times, there's going to be practices that aren't going to do very well, and there will be practices that will do very, very well nicely out of what's going on. And I'm going to share with you what the strategies of winning practices are. This is a time now where we really have to be proactive, and I'm going to talk a lot about that today. As Holger said, I'm going to give you lots of tips and strategies to enable you to get more of your patients back through the door. We're going to talk about the patient list and how important it's the most important asset, and the importance of keeping in touch with patients, not just now, but in the future. Going to talk a little bit about website and language, something that you need to look at if you can, and going to touch a little bit on ethical sales. And like as Holger said, I will answer your questions at the very end, and hopefully there'll be something here for everyone today. To get the best out of the presentation this morning, just a few quick guidelines. Please have a very, very open mind. That's going to be really important. I'm going to be sharing with you some tips, some strategies that are working this moment in the UK. These are my very, very best clients. This is what they're doing now. But if it was working in the UK, it will work in every area of the world. I've lectured and given courses in 16 different countries worldwide, so this material will work. I do accept that in different countries there's different things happening. We are still in lockdown, although the restrictions have been lifted since yesterday, so we are allowed to venture out of our houses and venture out and do more exercise. However, dental practices in the UK are not yet open. We're hoping that they should be opening in the next 2 or 3 weeks, but as yet they're still closed, although there are some practices doing emergency work. I've already said this before, it really is about being proactive. So everything I'm going to share with you today is about you having to do something. And the last part I want to talk to you a little bit about is please don't let your own prejudices get in the way of the material. And what I mean by prejudices is for 24 years now, I've been teaching ethical sales and communication courses to thousands of dentists worldwide. And sometimes I find dentists put their own prejudices in the way and behave as if they, for example, if they're a technician and they buy something if they're a technical person and do lots of research, they will tend to talk very technical to their patients and inevitably can put the patients off, and they will tend to write their website as if they were researching themselves. So you've got to have a very, very open mind and don't let your own prejudices get in the way. Just a few quick ways here of following me. I do post on Instagram every day, and I also record a podcast called Two Reds Are Better Than One. It's a podcast I've now been recording for about 3 years. There are about 35, 36 brilliant interviews in there, if I say so myself, some of them with dentists, some of them with people from different industries. Each one's about 45 minutes long, and so if you get a chance and you've got some downtime, please go in there. So a quick history about myself for the people that don't know me too well, or this is the first time you've come across me. Mainly delivering dental ethical selling courses now for the last 24 years. That's what I'm best well known for. So my goal, I work with very forward-thinking dentists and their teams, helping them with their communication skills, which allows them to the patients, the dentists, to communicate differently with their patients, allowing them to get yes to their treatment plans in a very ethical manner, allowing them to deliver the dentistry they love to do and their patients want. So that's what I do. I've now delivered close on 32,000 hours of business and communication training worldwide. Today, as an organization, we offer 10 different programs, from ethical sales course to reception training, practice manager courses, various programs. And I've written 3 books, which I will show you a little bit about, and probably responsible for generating hundreds of millions of euros, pounds, dollars worth of extra treatment plans. Some dentists take my courses every year with me, and it's been an amazing journey. Those are the 3 books I've written. The first one there is called Don't Wait for the Tooth Fairy: How to Communicate Effectively and Create the Perfect Patient Journey in Your Dental Practice. So that's the core book of the ethical selling skills. found for many years, many dentists have been not great or poor at discussing fees. So that book, the second book there, is called You Are Worth It, How to Discuss Fees with Confidence and Achieve the Income that Your Services Deserve. And the third book there is called The Dental Practice Jugglers. That's the latest practice managers book that we've launched, and that came out just in the last couple of months. So those are the three books. And today I'm speaking to you from my training center. That's my center here. And we have dentists who've traveled literally all over the world to come here in Manchester and take my courses. So that's just a little bit about me. Personally, I'm being married to Grace, my wife. She's Italian. Been married 22 years. I always say that my marriage works because I'm away 100 nights a year on business, delivering courses all over the world. So the last 8 weeks I've been at home every night, which has been really interesting, and really I'm getting to know my wife really well over the last few weeks. And I have two daughters. My eldest is Enrica, and youngest is Martina. As you can tell, they're Italian names, and I've had absolutely no say in the names of my children. So that's just a little bit about me. In terms of dentists, the two very, very well famous dentists who have taken, these guys have taken about 10 courses each with me. They come every year to take my courses, Bill Schaefer and Stephen Jacobs. They're international speakers and lecturers. So when you've taken 10 courses with me, we take you to Old Trafford to watch Manchester United. So a lot of stuff I'm going to share with you today is proven, it works. And like I said, I'm honored and privileged to I've got many dentists as personal friends in the industry. So that's just a little bit about me and what we're going to cover today. And this slide here is really apparent now, and it's about failure and success. And what I find in tough times, I'm 55 now years of age, so I'm old enough now to have lived through 4 different recessions and challenging times. This is unprecedented, as you can imagine, but the chances are when we do go back, and I know some practices already back already, there will be some practices that won't do very well, who will struggle, and there'll be some practices who will do very, very well nicely, who will still carry on and do very successful, even though there could be a tough and challenging economy. And what we're going to focus on today is what the successful practices do. And that's why you're here, so congratulations. But this is how people who don't do well, this is how I think they think and how they behave. They always say things like it's not fair, it's the government's fault, or they're to blame for our problems. This is going to destroy our practice. We'll never be able to open up again. And when we do go back, there's going to be a really, really bad recession. And they react to circumstances. So there's going to be 2 camps. I see lots of these on Facebook. You probably see them yourself. But also, on the other hand, when I work with, and I'm working with some very, very good practices now, who, even though they're closed, are making and generating thousands and thousands of pounds worth of income. And I'm going to share with you again what they do. But what they say things like, life is not fair. I can't control that, but here's things we can do. Here's things we can do. So we can't see our patients. We can't get them through the door. But you know what? We can do Zoom consultations, and we can book patients in now. They're very, very proactive in the way they think and behave. They also think that there'll be lots of opportunities when they go back, because people might not have the money to spend on holidays and other things now, but they might want to spend on their teeth. So they're very optimistic and think about the opportunities when they go back, but they also think very strategic. And like I said, my goal for you guys today is that you are in the success camp, and that you will have a list of activities of things you can do now, but also in the future. Now, I want to start off the strategies, and the most important one for me, one of the most important ones I want you to think about, is the number one. And in business, the most dangerous number in business is when you rely on one of anything in your practice. So the most dangerous number in business is the number one, and that's when you rely on one of anything. So for example, if you rely on one form of marketing to get patients through your door, that's a very, very crazy situation to be in, because for example, if the rules change with Facebook or Google, they could really destroy your business overnight. So in terms of marketing your practice, you've got to have various ways of doing this. If you rely on one key staff member, you know, I've got some practices who I do work with in the UK. They have one very key treatment coordinator. And if that coordinator leaves the practice, that practice would be in trouble. If you are listening here from the UK, you'll know that if you rely very heavily on the National Health Service as a customer, even though you have thousands of patients, you really only have one customer, and that one customer can dictate how they do business with you and how they pay you. And if you are a specialist practice who rely on referring dentists referring to you, I strongly suggest that you take some time out and look at, is there one or two practices where we get a vast majority of the referrals from, and what would happen if that practice was to do their own implants themselves? What situation would you find yourself? So leave here today and think about, are we relying one of anything? Because if you do, it's a very, very dangerous situation to be in terms of, in the UK recently, this airline went bankrupt. It's called Flybe. It's a UK-based airline. They only fly within the Great Britain area, and this airline went bankrupt about 3 months ago. But for some airports, over 90% of their income came from Flybe. 90% of their flights were with Flybe. Now, all of a sudden, overnight, these airports are now out of business because they relied very heavily on Flybe. So be very careful that you don't rely on one of anything. In my business, we do various types of marketing, and these are all the activities that we undertake to generate people to come on our courses. So be very careful about doing that. So what can you do now? Well, the first thing you can do is you can pick the telephone up and call the patients who were booked in for treatments with you during lockdown. If you haven't already done that, and get them back in the diary. Pick the telephone up and speak to these patients. Don't send them emails, just pick the phone up. And I would just presume that they're coming back in, and just get them back in the diaries as quickly as you can. One thing that you might need to consider is you're going to have to work flexible hours now. You might need to work in shifts. I was just doing a webinar this morning with a practice, and they were talking about opening from 7:30 in the morning till 7:30 at night with 2 shifts, the 6 hours in the morning and 6 hours in the evening. But you're going to have to be very flexible with your opening hours, because if people are going back to work, they probably don't want to take time off to have the treatment done now. So I strongly suggest that you open flexible hours and work and give your patients a call and ask them to come in, because you'll be shocked and surprised at how many patients are ready to come back to see you. The most important thing you're going to have to do, obviously, is reassure them that you are adhering to all new restrictions, that you are doing social distancing, and that you are a safe place to come back to. So I strongly urge you to, like I said, make the phone calls and get your patients back in the door. The other activity that you could do now is, and the question is this, is how many of you have a cabinet somewhere in your dental practice with outstanding treatment plans, and are they gathering dust? And one thing you could do, and strongly urge you to do, is to pick the telephone up and give them a call. Now, I'm working with a group. We have a group, an entrepreneur group. It's an entrepreneur group of dentists, and there's 16 of them in the group. And each week we set them a challenge. The challenge is, even though their practices are locked down, but they're challenged to generate cash, to generate income, to generate treatment plans. And one dentist, she's called Louise, she really, really impressed me. She's the owner of the practice, and she went to her cabinet and she's had 29 outstanding treatment plans. And these were treatments from implants, treatment plans from anything down to orthodontic and different treatment plans. To cut a long story short, she remember she heard something from me, and the thing she heard from me was, well, if I call these patients, what's the worst thing that can happen? Well, the worst thing that can happen is they say, no, I don't want to go ahead, I've changed my mind. But if you think about it, the answer at the present moment, it's a no now already, because they've not called you, you're calling them. So as it stands at the moment, the answer at the moment is a no. So what's the worst thing that can happen? Well, the worst thing that can happen is they confirm what you already know, which is they're not going ahead. But the best thing is some of them actually might say yes. And the quote there, what's the worst thing that can happen, is from Dale Carnegie's book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. So what's the worst thing that can happen? Well, the worst thing that can happen is 24 patients said, no, they're not interested at this moment. But 5 actually said yes. And she booked 5 in, and she collected just under 20,000 euros in payments. And 5 patients decided they wanted to go ahead. They decided that they were at home. They decided that they weren't going to be on a holiday this year. And they decided that now was the time to treat themselves for treatment. So to conclude here, really now is the time to really be proactive and pick the telephone up and speak to people. Now, some will say yes, some will say no. So what? Someone is waiting. Some won't go ahead, but someone was waiting. So I urge you to, first activity is to pick the telephone up, speak to your patients who were booked in the time during lockdown, get them back in the diary, offer them flexible times. But the other thing is, please go to your outstanding treatment plan cabinet and contact those patients as well. And I promise you, there will be some patients who are just waiting for your phone call, who will just say, yes, I'm glad you've called me. Yes, I'm ready to go. And yes, can I make an appointment, and do you need a credit card from me? And that will happen. Now, like I said, it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable. It might be a bit challenging to do this at the start, but when you get really good results, I find that things work really well. So there's the proactive, picking up the telephone. The other thing I urge you to do is have a weekly email newsletter going out to your patients. Keep in touch and communicate with your patients. So everybody on my entrepreneur group is sending out newsletters to their patients. They're keeping their list. Now, why is this important? Well, the newsletter keeps in touch with your patients. It shows you care. The most important asset you have in your dental practice is the list of patients. It's your customers. It's not the building, it's not the scanner, It's not the equipment. The most important thing is your asset, is your database of patients. And you have to keep them in touch with them and let them know what's going on with your practice. Let them know when you're going to be opening. Let them know when your opening hours are. Let them know what's happening in your practice. Let them know what's happening in terms of how you're going to be able to operate after COVID-19. And I strongly urge you, it has to be fun. It has to be interesting. And I would certainly put some personal stuff in there about yourself as well, and what impact COVID-19 may be having on you and your team. I cannot tell you the success that my clients are having by sending these newsletters out. I had one practice in particular who sent the first one out. Now, I helped them write the first 3 paragraphs, and they completed the rest. And within 24 hours of sending his first newsletter out, he had 110 responses back within 24 hours. And some of them were with new patients who wanted to make appointments with that dental practice. In the newsletter, he was just mentioned how he was helping other patients in his area, how he was dropping off antibiotics to patients. And in the newsletter, he also put down, even if they are not my patients and they are friends and relatives of yours, I will help them. And by doing that, like I said, he got 110 responses back within 24 hours. He put some personal stuff in there. And in there, the newsletter, he put down that he was now doing Zoom consultations. This particular dentist has now done just under 40 Zoom consultations and is signing up and booking in patients who want implant and Invisalign treatments. Now, I know he can't do everything, but at least he's getting them in the door and building that relationship up with the patients. Now, like I said, I helped him write the first one, the first 3 paragraphs. And if you send me your email address at the end, I spoke to him this morning and he has given me permission to allow you to see the first 3 parts of that newsletter. So you can, if you give me an email, send it to me, I'll send that out to you at the end. So I'll give you the details of my email address at the end. I have another dentist who has really, he's a very, very touchy-feely dentist and shares a lot of personal stuff. And he said the main thing was, he said he's had patients who have been thinking about treatment plans for months and years who are now ringing up and saying, now's the time, I'm glad you've kept in touch. And the best thing about this is that I know in some countries where maybe still on lockdown, the patients will read them. So please look at how you can develop your newsletters, look at keeping in touch with your patients, and email newsletters are the best way of keeping in touch with your patients. And the other reason why it's important to keep in touch is this, and this is probably one of the most important slides that I can share with you. Let me explain to you what I mean by that. Patients will buy when they're ready to buy, not when you're ready to sell to them. So you might have some patients who have come to see you in the past, and maybe they had an implant consultation, but for some reason they didn't buy now. And there could be various reasons for that. Maybe it was the timing wasn't right. Maybe they didn't have the finance. Maybe the problem wasn't big enough yet to justify the investment of both time and money. And this is how people buy. When people buy cosmetic treatments or any sort of treatments, they start off with a small problem, a small pain, and it builds up, it builds up and builds up. And eventually the problem becomes big that they are ready to buy. And that's how people buy. So people buy on emotional level, and they've taken some time, weeks, it could be months. In some cases, it may be even years. And if you offer a free consultation, you might have patients who come to see you here. Now, the pain is big, but they're not yet quite ready to buy. So what you've got to do is have a system of keeping in touch with those patients so that they don't forget about you. Now, to be honest, I could spend all day on this topic. I could spend all day on the reasoning behind it and why you've got to do it. But here's just a few ways of keeping in touch. And what you want to do is have just subtle touches so that the patients do not forget about you. And that's the key thing, is you don't want them to forget about you. So if you've got friends, if they're friends on Facebook, or they maybe on Instagram, they're getting a newsletter. Even though sometimes they might not open it, they can at least see you in your inbox. Maybe you do the odd open evening and invite them to it, and maybe even by post. And the advantage of post is very few people use mail. So if you send something by post, you will have that person's attention. And of course, the odd telephone call, which is what I've told you to do this morning. So that really is an important 4 slides. If we're looking at growing our business, growing our sales, growing our opportunities after COVID, during COVID-19 and after, then you've got to keep in touch with your patients, your existing patients, and also you need to keep in touch with the patients who have come to see you but didn't buy at that moment in time. I hope this has been useful. We've been going about 35 minutes now, so I've given you hopefully plenty of ideas and making you think differently. But of course, everything I've talked about is being proactive, and it's really is about doing activities that are very proactive. We're not being reactive here. So let's move on. Now, here's an exercise I urge you to do. Okay, now we're going to do it now. It's not easy to do the exercise because I'm not in the same room as you. But what I want you to do, please, is to write a letter as if you are the patient with a problem that an implant can solve. So, for example, maybe you have a space, a gap, or maybe you have a loose denture. So you have a problem that an implant treatment can solve. And what I'd like you to do is imagine that you are writing a letter to you the dentist, you the doctor. And you're writing the letter, and it starts off with, "Dear Dr. Latter, the reason why I'm writing to you is because I have a problem. My problem is a loose denture." And then in the letter, write the letter to describe what a day is like in your life. What a day is like in your life. What's the problems that you have? What is it like eating food? Do you go out socially? So you've got to write the letter as if you are the patient. Now, just for a period of time, when you write the letter, I want you to spend about 5 minutes on it. We're not going to do it now because of the time pressures that we have at the moment. But I want you to write the letter. And then when you wrote the letter, I want you to imagine you are that patient. You are that patient. And you are contacting your dental practice, your office. You are contacting you, and you are visiting your website. Now, this is a typical dental implant website, okay? And this is typical what a dental website, implant website section of a website will actually say. So if you think about it, this is what it says. And I've copied this, by the way. I've copied and pasted this from one I came across last week. So please just spend a couple of minutes reading that. And then it carries on this page. And to be honest with you, it goes on and on and on. So I've just narrowed it down to 2 pages. Now, I strongly urge you to visit your Implant web page or your website, because let me explain to you, this is absolutely awful. This is about, and I accept that this is an exception and this is as bad as it gets. But if you're that patient and you read this or some of your websites, I have to tell you, you will be put off your patients visiting your practice. I was with a dentist last night and I visited his page. We did some training and coaching. I coached his whole team by Zoom. And then part of the program was rewriting his website, but he has a 56% bounce rate from his website in 8 seconds. So 56% of people are leaving. Now, his web pages weren't as bad as this, but can you see the problem that you're going to have if you are talking technical about this? The best example I can give you of this is like going to a steak restaurant and there's a video there of the cow in the fields and then how it's slaughtered and then it goes for the abattoir. Your patients don't want to read all this. The purpose of the website is to take them on a journey, and at the end of the website is that they pick the telephone call up and they want to do business with you. They want the treatment with you. So the purpose of a website is not to talk about the aeroplane. It's to talk to them about the destination. It's about what you can do for them. Patients don't care about you until you first demonstrate how much you care about them. If there's one exercise that you do, and this is it, by the way, if you think today's presentation is no good, you don't enjoy it, but if you just did this one exercise and walk through your website as if you were the patient, the person on that sheet of paper, I promise you, it will save you hours and hours, thousands and thousands of euros worth of lost opportunities. And here's the thing, and I teach this on my ethical sales and communication course, is that patients, you've got to find out what their destination is and tell them how you can help them. But what patients are not really that interested in is the destination, how to get there, the aeroplane. Now, I know in the treatment plan you've got to talk about the aeroplane, I accept that. But on the website, that's the worst place you can talk about it because you're going to put people off. So today's presentation is about how to generate opportunities. And I thought the most important thing you need to look at is your website. The other thing you need to look at as well is where do you answer your telephone to those potential clients? And if you are answering the telephone at reception desk, the chances are it's about the worst place you can answer the telephone to. It's the worst place because your patient wants a life-changing procedure. They want a life-changing operation taking. And if you're doing it at reception desk, there's lots of distractions. Your receptionist cannot deal with that inquiry the best place. And if patients are shopping around, which they will do more so in the recession, then if you answer the telephone away from the desk, you will stand out from the crowd. So this is a client of mine in Ireland. It's not a great picture actually, but the reception is on the left-hand side and she answers the telephone here in this space there. And this is another practice of mine, a big implant practice in the north of England, and they have a call center. And as you can see there's 3 ladies that actually answer the telephone. So I strongly urge you that if you want to create more opportunities now and after COVID-19, not only should you answer your telephones now, all the time, but also you should be answering the telephones when your practice open away from the reception desk. And I promise you, you'll create more opportunities and you have more meaningful conversations with your patients. So there's another thing to really grab hold of. Another quick tip today, Olga and Stefan asked me to say, look, give them everything you can, Ashley. We've got to create more opportunities. I strongly urge you to put on your website that you're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and please call us. Now, I am not saying here that you should answer your telephone to your practice 7 days a week and 24 hours, but outside the opening hours of your practice, have a company to answer your telephone. Have a human being answer your telephone. And the United Kingdom, there's various companies that do that. I personally employ this myself in my business, and believe it or not, we do get phone calls outside our working hours, and it's answered. And we have many dental practices who operate this as well, and they do get phone calls, because if you think about it, most people do their surfing in the evening and at night time, and if you put down that we're open, then you will have more patients coming through your door, and I think you'll find that you'll create more opportunities. So it's better than an answer machine. So that's another example of how to create more opportunities in your practice. The other thing I strongly urge you to do, and this is just common sense, but it's incredible that it's not common. I always find common sense isn't common, but there's, I would say, about 30% of dental practices in the UK are not even answering their telephone at the moment, and some of them you can't even answer the phone. So if you are in the UK, if you answer your phone, the chances are you'll be ripe at the moment to get new patients through your door, because probably most of the practices at the present moment are closed. And I urge you as well, if you are in that situation, Zoom conference consultations are the way forward. So if you get email inquiries or phone calls, say to your patients, look, why don't I send you a Zoom link? Why don't we have a chat by Zoom? I can see you, you can see me. We can have a conversation together. I can understand a bit more about what you're looking for, and I can share with you how we can help you. So that is another great way of helping you create more opportunities. So we're now coming to what we've looked at so far is creating more opportunities. We've looked at being proactive. The point I want to talk to you a little bit about this, and this is about the 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes or so, is remember that your practices are a sales and marketing business first rather than a dental practice, and that every single person in your practice is in sales, because there is a journey that happens, and in each practice there are various people that work in your practice. From the person answers the telephone, who in my opinion is the most important person in the practice, and that person needs to be professionally trained in sales skills, right through to the doctor, the dentist, the receptionist, the practice manager. Every single person in your practice is in sales and marketing, every single person. And you only need one person who isn't, and I call them sales prevention officers. They prevent opportunities from happening. And the new arena, when you go into the new economy, and I'm biased because this is what I've done for 28 years, I've trained dental practices and their teams, but every single person has to be professionally customer service, sales and training, because you only need one person who isn't, and the whole journey can fall down. An example of this is not a dental practice related, This is a hotel in the Lake District. This is in the north of England. We have the Lake District. It's a national park, beautiful mountains that people go there to walk and cycle. Myself and my wife, we're keen walkers, so we go up there a lot. And for the last 7 years, we've stayed in this hotel. It's called the Linthwaite Hotel. If you want details of it, send me an email. And the food is great, the journey is great, it's a boutique type hotel, and the customer service is really world class. And this happened about 18 months ago. We were having dinner one evening, and my wife mentioned that she'd heard of this other hotel in the Lake District, and why did we not give that a go next time? And I said, yes, why not? We can give it a go. Anyway, to cut a long story short, about 15 minutes later, the waiter came and said, Mr. and Mrs. Latter, here are your starters. Mrs. Latter, last year you told me that you're allergic to caviar, so we've taken the caviar off your starter. Mr. Latter, we've left it on. And enjoy your starters. And I looked at Grace, and Grace looked at me, and we were just knocked over by a feather. The customer service in that 1 minute was just exceptional and guaranteed our business for probably the next 5 years at least. Now, yes, they have a system. Yes, he probably had it in a computer. Yes, they wrote it down, but to display that type of customer service by somebody who's probably on minimum wage was truly world class. So going back to that slide, every single person in your practice has to be professionally trained in communication and world-class customer service skills, ethical selling and bias, because in the new arena, this is proven that in a consultation with your patients, 85% of your success is going to be down to skills and attitude, and only 10 to 15% is applicable to the technical knowledge. The dentist that has this website has probably got brilliant technical knowledge. He's probably the best implantologist around, but he's putting patients off, and probably does that when he talks to the patients as well. So master the skill of the implant, yes, but also you've got to master the skill of being able to sell and market what you do. So to summarize this short webinar today, and I've got a couple more slides to show you, then I'll answer your questions. This is a time now where you have to be really proactive. It's not a time, you've really got to be picking the telephone up and speaking to patients. Ring the patients up that were due to have appointments with you, get them back in your diary, ring up your outstanding treatment plans. The worst thing that can happen is the patient says, no, I've decided now's not the right time, or I'm not going to go ahead. But I promise you, if you pick the phone up, some patients will say yes. My dentist had 5 out of 21 phone calls, 5 agreed, and £17,500 worth of treatment plans went ahead. That same dentist, by the way, went to 6 pharmacists in her town to tell them that she had the dental cement if they ran out. Please send the patients to me. She's had lots of patients visiting her practice. She's been giving them the cement free of charge, and at the same time is signing up new patients as well, because she's been proactive. So you have to be proactive. Pick the phone up, make things happen. This is a time really now to increase your communication with your patients. Newsletters, social media, keeping them updated are really most important strategies that you can increase. Remember, the most dangerous number is one of anything. When you get new patient inquiries, answer the phone away from the desk. If you can, even better still, create a call center look at your website. Is it putting patients off? And remember that the end game of the website is to get the patient to pick the telephone up and call you. Have a system of following up people, and remember that in the new economy, you're going to have to be world class, because the patients will demand world class customer service. So everyone is in sales and marketing. Just 2 more slides, and then I'll answer your question. And then I'll give you my email address, of course, as well, for the information that I said I'd give you free of charge. I am from Manchester. I am a keen Manchester United supporter. I've had a season ticket now for close on 40 years. And 4 years ago, we were at Wembley. We played in a cup final and we won it. It's called the League Cup. It's a secondary cup competition. And at the end of the game, my friend of mine said, shall we leave now and get the train to go back to Manchester and miss the crowds? And I said, no, we've got to stay for the presentation. And he said, come on, let's leave now, we can miss. And I said, no, we're going to stay, we're going to watch the cup being presented, and we're going to watch the presentation. Anyway, I won. And the reason why I won is I said to my friend Elliot, you never know when we may never win another cup again. And you've got to savor these moments. And I'm glad I did, because it's been nearly 5 years now since my team have won a trophy. And the lesson is, please don't take anything for granted ever again. Every new inquiry, every consultation, everything's going to count. In the new economy, we're going to have challenging times when we do open up, if you're already opening up. And what I don't want you to do is take anything for granted in the future. So now is the time really to be taking massive action. And the last slide I want to share with you before this is the last but one slide, is this is a delicatessen, and it's 3 miles from my house. And I cycle past here every Sunday. I go for a bike ride very early, about 7:30. And at 7:30, there is a queue of people outside this delicatessen. And the reason why it's open at that time is they sell fresh bagels, hot bagels, and people like the bagels. And they come out with the bagels and lots of other delicatessen food that they buy there. But what's interesting is the barber shop next door is open at 7:30 as well on a Sunday. And he's busy because all the men go in there, get the bagels, and they go next door to get their hair done. Now, I am not saying you should open up 7:30 on a Sunday morning, but what I'm saying is the rules of business have changed, and you really now have to be different and look at what every other practice is doing and be different. And if you do that, I think you will be a success in the new economy. So if you would like a copy of my slides today as a reminder of my presentation, I will also send you a copy of my client's newsletter. And that's the first 3 paragraphs that I've wrote for him. But again, it will give you an idea of what you can put in. You can fill in the rest of it. I will also send you details. We are going to be doing a Zoom ethical sales and communication course that will help dentists particularly sell implant treatment. We're going to be doing that by Zoom. I'm going to be launching that very shortly. So if you send me an email requesting this information, I will send you details of that course. And part of that course will be helping you rewrite your website so that it becomes more appealing to your patients. And I do a lunch and learn video every week, so we'll get that sent out to you every week. So if you send me an email at ashley@thesellingcoach.com, it's ashley@thesellingcoach.com, I will send you the slides, copy the newsletters, and also the Lunch and Learn video, and also send you a quick video on the 5 biggest communication mistakes dentists make. So send me that email. Give me 24 hours. I am doing another big webinar this afternoon, but I will get that out to you. I hope today has been truly valuable. I hope it's made you think differently and act differently and think about the new economy and what's going to happen. I think we have got time to do some questions. I've probably finished about 5 minutes too early, but I will stay on and answer some questions as long as I can. And Holger, have you got questions for me now here? Or people got any questions they want to type in and ask me?
Hi, yeah. Thank you very much, Wesley, for this interesting presentation. First of all, we have questions here, which I pass to you. Some questions, I have to admit, they are about football, because because at the very first, in the beginning, there was one question: why, if we go to a course of you, we have to see Manchester United? That was one question.
The pictures behind, yeah. Well, this is these are my this is my office. This is called my man cave. So, which basically means this is where I am not allowed to have these pictures up at home. So, but this is my office. So they are here. So yeah, if you are, there's only about 4. So don't worry, there's not many.
Okay, so there was just a question. Would you repeat the email, please? I think it's written still on the slide down there. Ashley at thesellingcoach.com.
Yeah, so it's Ashley, ASHLEY.
And then I think a very important question was asked. Sorry, I have to find it here from Aref. Aref Alabet, I hope I spelled the name right. I agree with you. We need a marketing charts to our websites. Do you think the dentists can do it alone, or they need a help from marketing agencies, for examples? I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
really.
You can answer this question. I would like to add something from TRI to this as well.
Okay. The bottom line is you need a expert to write your website and the copy for it. And the reason being is unless you've studied this. You see, throughout my whole life, I studied sales and marketing. That's all I do. That's my baby. And you are dentists, so you are brilliant at doing the dentistry. But what you're not good at is probably, or I'm generalizing, is probably not very good at is selling what you do. And there's 2 types of selling. There's selling in words, which is the copy you put on your website. And there's the selling in terms of the communication between you and the patient. And what I have traditionally found is that many dentists don't spend much time developing their selling or communication skills, yet it's responsible for about 85% of your financial success. So to answer your question this is an area I can help you. I've helped write websites for my clients because you've got to sell it in words. And if you don't decide to use me, I'm okay with that, but you need to find someone who understands selling in words. And it's not normally a website design company because they're good at designing something, but they're not good at selling. So you've got to have somebody who's really good in words so that they can sell what you do. I hope that's answered your question. So I'm biased. I would say outsource it.
Yeah, I would like to add something to this question as well, and therefore I quickly would like to share my screen again, because I think it's very important, as Ashley explained very detailed, that you have to do your own action and do something to get your patients back. And I think this proactive thing is absolutely important. I think also to treat your stuff, to go through the documentary of your patient helps a lot. I can tell you this idea from a friend of mine who is a TRI user. I asked him, how is the situation in Germany, and he said like he has a boom of now placing a lot of implants because people have more time now. They can go to the doctor and get this treatment, and so he teach his staff to call up the patients and look before if they have some space or some implant treatment already planned a long time before, and he convinced them. He tells them, hey, okay, you don't have to be scared about the COVID-19 situation. We have this news filter and so on in our offices. Everything is absolutely prepared for you, and then the staff helps them to convince the patients to go back or come to a treatment, and it can be very successful, this situation. And back to the question, we from TRI, and therefore now you can see my screen, and I would like to quickly go just on my screen. I would like to show you quickly our website. So this is our landing page. This is our homepage with our first page, and so we say here, we are here for you. This is we do the same thing from TRI. We really try to call up our distributors and also our patients and everybody to help you to come through this time. And if you go here on more information, you can see, and that was the basic question, you can see down here, as you can see, we do a lot of more webinars, which is very important to educate more in these times, because people sit at home. That's just the webinar we just did, and you can watch these webinars, the past webinars, you can watch them on our homepage. But what I want to like to show you is download the TRI support materials, and that was the question. And our marketing department is working daily on uploading here more papers and more sentence which you can use for your websites. As Ashley just explained, you can download here things, and you have to add your names and so on, and maybe some pictures of your office and so on. But we try to help you with this question was asked in the webinar just before. So that was the answer, I think, on this question. And let me check last time if there's more question coming in. Which are the free books? I think we already answered that, Ashley, that the 3 books, we showed them in the presentation already. Maybe you can repeat your email address if people ask you about this your book. Maybe you can do that, and then I think we can stop this webinar for this week.
Okay, so if you went the 3 books there actually on that page there. So the Don't Wait for the Tooth Fairy: How to Communicate Effectively is the core book to the ethical selling, and the discussion of fees book, which is there, called You Are Worth It: How to Discuss Fees with Confidence. But again, if you send me an email, that's Ashley at thesellingcoach.com. Or visit my website, ashleylatter.com, then I'll get those emails and all that information to you as a reminder. And you can buy the books from my website as well.
Perfect. I just checked last time I started late. Can I get a copy? Yeah, yeah, you all can get a copy. And as I just showed you, all our webinars are recorded, and we put them on our website, and you can see them on the TRI YouTube channel, as well as Ashley Latter's webinar right now. So you can write us as well an email, and I'd say from TRI side, I say thank you very much again, Ashley, for this really great.
You're welcome. It's been great. Thanks for having me.
Webinar, and I wish you all a very good restart, and be proactive and start selling your treatment ways, and you do implant treatments. We just saw that many people have reopened but not starting with doing implants. And also on our website the past webinar, how we can do minimal invasive treatment ways to be more safe in these times. And so stay tuned from my side. Thank you very much, and we see us soon with the next webinars. Stay updated. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Bye.
Holger.
Bye.